our website. To join our club, we are totally doing this differently. We changed our website, so forget about that. Just ask if you'd like to join the club. We'll happily send you information. And at this point, I'd like to say welcome to Advanced Toastmasters Online. I'll pass it over to Doug Thiessen, our Toastmaster of the day, where he can either read our mission of our particular club or pass that on to someone else. But please help me welcome Doug. Yay!
Thank you, Dawn. Advanced Toastmasters Online is an advanced Toastmasters club which supports maverick leaders in creating greater impact by providing an advanced feedback on online presentations and leadership skills and discovering what it means to be out-of-the-box, innovative leaders. Now, our theme for today is snowbirds, which is a term used for people who like to escape the snow, particularly in the United States. Given the very large geography, it spans a considerable range in weather, particularly during the winter, in that the northern states get plenty of snow and it gets cold, whereas southern states like Florida or along the Mexican border are still nice and warm and much more comfortable. And lots of people that have the ability like to go south and reside in those southern states during the winter, even if they have normally resided in something more north and more cold during the summer months. And particularly for Canadians, where it's cold in the winter everywhere, escaping to the south, like the birds do, we migrate south where we can, and thus the term snowbirds. And some of our prominent members, Lori Whitmore and Rick Weiner, who are a couple, they have traveled south like the snowbirds and are residing in Florida right now to be much more comfortable during our snowy winter. Whereas me in Cleveland, Ohio, I'm looking out the window and I can see snow right now. So we fortunately have two speakers for today. And actually, because of a small change in the agenda, it is our same couple, our snowbirds, who are going to be providing both of our speeches. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker today. Actually, I'll introduce our timer first. We don't have a grammarian today, so we'll not worry about that one. But I'd like to introduce Kelly McCormick, Distinguished Toastmaster, to tell us about her role as timer. Kelly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. So I am the timer, which means that I will be looking at my smartphone to find out how accurate you are to your project, whether it's a full speech of 5 to 7 minutes, or it's a table topic of 1 to 2 minutes, or you're an evaluator of 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to give you some of the weirdest things because I am playing Snowbird right now in Austin, and I am not in my normal environment. So you will likely see something that doesn't look full on green if you get to that first level of your speech time-wise. Then my supplement box is yellow, and I hope you don't get distracted, but I'll put it as close as I can so you won't see what it is. And a very wise woman once said, just use your clothes, so that will be your indicator that the cane hook is coming after you and you might want to wrap it up. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kelly, for telling us how you're going to be doing the times, and definitely a creative use of our color signals. Now we move on to our speeches, and our first speaker is doing project number 2 from the first level of the new Engaging Humor path. This is the evaluation and feedback project, which will involve 2 speeches, and she's giving her first of those 2 today. The title of her speech is Living the High Life. Time is 5 to 7 minutes. Please join me in welcoming distinguished Toastmaster, Lori Whitmore.
We are living the high life. Chai is a Hebrew word which means long life, and it's kind of a play on words about our deciding to become snowbirds. Actually, Rick and I don't mind snow that much. One of the things that really inspired us to want to come to a warm climate this winter is because we've started swimming every day. And all summer long in the Boston area, we get to swim outdoors. Then it gets cold in October and November, and we're swimming indoors. And I thought about how nice it would be to extend the season of swimming outdoors. We'd have to go somewhere warm enough for January, February, March, into April, where we could enjoy 70-degree weather, swim outdoors every day, not have to shovel snow, not have to bundle up in parkas and snow boots. And it just seemed like it would be ideal. Now, it just happens to be that when we came down here to Florida, it was so warm and we were enjoying swimming outside. It was such a pure delight. And out of nowhere, after the first of the year, we're having a cold spell here. The Floridians are wearing parkas because they can't handle 60 degrees. It actually has gone down to like 55 degrees at night, and they're freaking out how cold it is. Rick and I are still able to handle wearing short sleeves and sandals in that cooler weather. For us, it's kind of like a cool fall day. But it has been too cold to swim outdoors. So my goal of swimming every day outdoors is being impeded by this horrible cold spell we're having, which is supposed to lift in about a day or two. So that's how it's affecting us. Because down here, we don't have our health club, so we don't have an alternate indoor swimming option. But still, we are living the high life. Here I am, working from home in an RV, sitting in this spot, looking at my laptop at the video screen right now with you, but otherwise, this is where I sit to do my job. How cool is that? I can be on Wi-Fi, connect to my office in Boston, connect to my customers in Canada, and wherever they might be, and get my job done while I'm here in this gorgeous weather with sunshine. And occasionally, I will admit that I look at my weather app and I take a peek at what's going on in Boston. And I'm so glad to not be there, to not have to prepare for that snow. Now, there are some challenges to living this high life. We're in an old RV. It's 15 years old. It's not perfect. There's little things that go wrong. I'm grateful that my husband is a good fix-it man because lots of things have needed fixing, even along our journey. So it's been a little frustrating, not perfect, but still so happy to be here. Now, one of the things I have going on outside, I don't know if I can turn my monitor to show you, but I have a tower garden, and usually in the wintertime, I grow vegetables and herbs in my kitchen indoors in Boston in the winter. I grow it outdoors, obviously, in the summer, but in winter, indoors. But here in Florida, living the high life. I have my outdoor tower garden already planted with seedlings about maybe 1 to 2 inches high right now. And I hope to be eating fresh salads and picking fresh herbs by the end of the month. Another big advantage of being in a warm climate while we are experiencing winter a new way. I mean, we've been on vacation before in a warm climate, so I'm kind of used to 1 to 2 weeks, and then we have to head home. And it keeps settling in for me. Wow, we're just putting our roots down. We're just getting started. We have 2 weeks under our belt, and we're going to be here 3 more months. Oh my God, I'm loving it. That's what I wanted to share with you today about living the high life, and I wish the same for all of you someday when you have the freedom to make this kind of choice. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lori, for telling us about living the high life. I'd now like to I notice in our agenda we have a minute of silence for some evaluation messages to the speaker, which can be done through the chat. Given that we do a round robin evaluation, are we doing both then?
I don't know. It's a good question. I copied some of that from the notes we had on our previous agenda, but maybe we were never following that.
Dawn? You're muted.
Let me unmute myself. Yay. I don't know that we need a minute. How do you feel about that?
I agree.
Yeah.
I think particularly since we do a round robin evaluation, sending little messages in the chat is probably not that necessary.
But the minute is intended for the speech evaluator to have time to write the evaluation.
Well, given that the evaluations don't happen till the second half, I think there's plenty of time.
Okay, I'll remove it in the future.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for setting up the agenda and the whole webpage overall. I think that Lori deserves an applause from everybody to thank her for that. Now to our second speaker today. We have Rick Weiner, also Distinguished Toastmaster and past district governor, who will be working in Pathways now. He's going to be working also from the humor path, and this will be in also level 1. He's doing project number 3, which is, I believe, research your topic. And actually, because Rick stepped in generously at the last minute to do a speech, I didn't get a title from Rick. So let's just welcome Rick to present his speech.
Can you hear me? All right. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. And the title of my speech is Snowbirding. How's that? I don't feel as if I can be as animated as usual because I'm outdoors and among many people here. However, I'll do the best that I can. Researching my topic, that was a fantastic part of this here, because when Lori and I decided to do snowbirding, we were thinking, how are we going to do it? I don't know about you, but I know for us, after we're away from home for 2-3 nights, we go to bed and it's like, I want to go home to my own bed. It is so uncomfortable. So I said to my wife, well, the only way that we can guarantee we'll have a comfortable bed is we'll bring our own. So how do you bring your own? Buy an RV. And that's what we did. Then it took a lot of research, a lot of thinking. How do we do this? Well, I went on Craigslist and bought an RV. Kind of a unique thing to do. And then after we had it, like, what do I do with this thing? How do I make it work? Where do I go? Well, that's where I am a really smart husband. I just turn to my wife and say, do the research. You figure out what do we do. Figure out the route that we take and how we go about doing this. And she did. We bought a special GPS, a Garmin, that takes into consideration the size of the vehicle and the weight of the vehicle and the height of the vehicle and the length and all this, so that we could go on all the roads, because when you're a 13-foot high vehicle, you can't go under every tunnel or every bridge. You have to be routed special for it. Well, it's been working fantastic. We got here all in one piece. Long, and it was a challenge to drive, but we did it. But I want to let you know a few little snafus on the way. During the early part of December, before we left, in Boston, we had a 17-inch snowfall. There was a heavy, wet snow. Like I said, I don't know what an RV is and what you're supposed to do to prepare for it. The snow was resting on the front windshield of the RV. It's built like a bus. It weighted down the arm on the windshield wiper. And the windshield wiper, instead of being like this, was like this. It broke. Well, I put it back in place and thought it was all right. When I turned it on, it would do one of these things. It worked. And I figured, okay, we're fine. We got on the road, driving. We get on the Mass Pike, to the end of the Mass Pike, and it starts raining. I put the windshield wiper on, and I'm driving, and we get into Connecticut, and the windshield wiper, instead of doing this, went and stayed there. I'm driving in heavy rain, no wipers. You couldn't even see outside. But I'm still driving. You got to do it. So we found a place to pull over in Connecticut, which was probably about a half an hour to an hour later, as we're praying on the way that we don't kill someone. And we go to a restaurant. And while we're there, we said to the manager of the restaurant, do you mind if we spend the night in your parking lot? He didn't care. So we spent the night there, and the next day we were able to drive to New Jersey. And we spent the night over at Lori's mom's house. And then Monday morning, I found a repair shop that could fix it for us. And they did. That was number one. As we're driving down, we had a problem. We had to disconnect the trailer that I'm pulling with the RV. Well, when we reconnected, didn't wind up the wire properly, and so it was dragging. Got out and found that the wire didn't exist anymore. There were many legs of it were gone. Number two, had to get that fixed. Not a big deal. That was only a $20 fix. As we're driving along, the dog all of a sudden decided, I need to go out. And we're on a highway driving this massive vehicle. I can't just pull over. We pull over off the road and go into a neighborhood where I figure I'd be able to turn around and go back out. It was a dead-end neighborhood. I had to turn a 60-foot rig around. You ever tried making a three-point turn with a 60-foot rig? Well, Lori's outside screaming at me, do this, do that. And I'm not understanding what she's saying. And there happened to be a FedEx truck that pulled over. And the woman that was driving that got out, and she signaled me, and I was able to follow the controls, and we got out of where we were. What an experience. But overall, I would say it was uneventful, but it was fun. Now that we're here in Florida, enjoying this beautiful weather, if I stood up, you'd see I'm wearing a pair of shorts and sandals, nice T-shirt, relaxed. I'm ready to just turn around and say, retirement Nah, I'm too young. I'm going to keep working. But it's kind of abbreviated. So we are having the time of our lives being snowbirds. And you know something? Next year, we might make it a little earlier so we don't get that 17-inch snowfall. Leave in November and stay until March. What do you think? Who here wants to join us? We've got room. We've got plenty of beds here. Anybody want to come? Mr. Toastmaster.
Oh, thank you, Rick, for telling us a bit about your journey so far. Sounds exciting. Now we move on to our table topics, which is actually going to be run by our second speaker, Rick Weiner. So I will I'll reintroduce Rick as our table topics master.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. And I totally forgot what I said onto a speech. All right, this is going to be fun.
Well, table topics is impromptu.
Table topics are fun, and we love them. For table topics, my role will be to introduce a topic. And then after I do, everybody's going to think, is he going to choose me to answer the topic? And that way you all have an opportunity to think of an answer. And then the lucky person who's chosen gets to speak on the topic. All right. Our theme today is snowbirds. Why? I don't know. But it is a different experience. When in your life have you had the opportunity to travel, be it a week, a month, maybe many months through the whole winter, but travel to a different climate? Maybe it was during the summer that you went someplace that was really cold, that you could snow ski. When has this happened to you? And was this an experience that you would like to do over and over again? Kelly, would you like to answer that one?
Of course I would. Thank you, Mr. Topics Master. So I could easily talk about where I am right now in Austin, where I just took a wonderful walk yesterday in my short sleeve shirt and got a very nice feel of 72 degrees. I don't miss Boston or Southern Illinois one bit right now. And I'm not going to talk about that. Here's what I'm going to talk about. If you go to Antarctica, which I did back in 2001, 2002 timeframe, you have to go in their summer. Their summer is going to be somewhere around 25 degrees to 0 degrees Fahrenheit as you arrive. So I went for a month. Half of that time was to go to Buenos Aires in their summer, enjoy Christmas with one of my best friends from MBA school. Another one came with me. But then we turned around and had to go into what I'd like to call winter, but the penguins would like to differ with me. So as we got there, you're going down, in this case, on a ship that takes you to the Falkland Islands. Now, the Falkland Islands just apparently doesn't get summer, and they do have a lot of pubs. I think that takes the edge off. But then once you leave that, you're about to go hang out with these penguins that are 50 to 60 million years old. Now, if you can spend summer and check out something that's been in existence for 50 or 60 million years, I think you've probably crossed that threshold of something different from what you're used to. I do recommend trying summer in Antarctica, but maybe 2 weeks is enough. Back to you, Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you, Kelly. What an interesting experience that must have been. The next question. What is the weather like where you are? What do you like? Do you like cold? Do you like warm? When it is too cold, do you want to get to the warmth? When it is too warm, do you want to get to the cold? Or do you just accept and love it the way it is? Willie, can you talk about that, please?
Thank you, Table Topic Master. The weather at Singapore is humid and dry. I don't like to stay. I don't like the weather in Singapore because it made me very sticky. But I like the weather in Hong Kong. I like the weather in Australia. Why? Because even the weather is hot, I can still feel coolness where the wind blows. Because in Singapore, where the weather is hot, it's very dry and there's no wind. I prefer, and the weather in Hong Kong is cold, as it can go down to 18 degrees. I still like because it's near it's the country in the, they call it the Ocean of the Oriental. That is for Hong Kong. So, fellow Toastmaster, I like that one day I can travel to the States or to the Europe where I can really experience the cold winter ice. I want to see the snow. I did not get to feel the snow in Singapore. I only feel the water coming for where we get rain almost every day for almost 2 weeks. It get me, and then it came the weather. So I want to experience the weather in the north, where I will feel how my body can have, what's the word to use? What it's like to be a cold winter environment. Thank you, Table Topic Master.
Thank you very much, Willie. I didn't realize the weather was like that over there. I learned something from you just now. Thank you. In Boston, the weather forecaster during the summer will often say the frizz factor. I guess women have a problem sometimes with frizzy hair with the hot, humid weather. How does the hot, humid weather affect you? Maybe your hair. Doug, would you answer that one?
How does hot, humid weather affect me? Well, I don't know that I've experienced that particularly much. Having grown up in Canada, hot and humid is not the normal climate. I was born in Winnipeg and lived there for about 8 years. And the weather is actually, the range of temperatures is actually quite wide in Winnipeg, because it gets down to -40 in the winter sometimes, although that's a bit of an extreme. And at that temperature, it doesn't really matter whether you're talking Fahrenheit or Celsius, because it's just cold. But in the summer, it can get up to basically body temperature, which is very warm. Now, I don't really remember then whether it was particularly dry or humid. As a little kid, you go out, you play, and, well, if it affected my hair, I'm a 7-year-old boy. It doesn't matter. I mean, if it did matter, I'd have to probably try and comb my hair to start with in the day, and that likely didn't happen back then. After that, we moved to Vancouver, which definitely is a lot more wet, but it doesn't get nearly so hot. It rains a lot during the winter. Summers aren't too bad. But I haven't spent that much time in a particularly hot and humid climate, so I've never had to worry about what the effects on my hair or other things are. And, well, I think that would be interesting to experience, although I don't necessarily know whether I'd want to live there. Back to you.
Thank you, Doug. I think that threw you for a loop when I introduced that topic and turned it to Doug. All right. So we spoke of the heat and the cold. Where have you traveled that has been unusual for your body, be it hotter or colder or maybe just perfect? But where have you traveled in this world that has been the most enjoyable experience for you? Don, could you answer that one?
Ooh, I like this question because I love traveling and I love experiencing the very diverse atmosphere that the planet has for us everywhere we go. Um, Mr. Table Topics Master, I would have to say that my days in Budapest this summer were some of the most enjoyable days that I've experienced. And I think it was because the weather was just, it wasn't too humid. You know, it was like that sweet spot of weather. So not too humid. The weather was warm enough. I'm actually, as I'm remembering, it was actually very hot. So, but there were so many nice places to be in the shade. There was water there that you could get the breeze from the river that goes through. I really enjoyed my time there. The extremes, though, places that I don't enjoy being are the extreme heat, which would be like Rome in the middle of summer. Not my favorite place to go. Would much rather be in Rome sometime when it's cold, maybe. But Rome in the middle of the summer was challenging for me. I do like there's just so many places to go and to travel in the world and bring a raincoat, rain jacket. That's my favorite thing because you can only experience what's there if you're prepared to do it in all types of weather because it can change at any instant. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Mr. Toastmaster, do we have time for one more table topic?
One more, yes.
All right.
For that.
A journey and experience, something unusual. Sometimes when we're away from home, we miss people. Sometimes we don't. We're happy to be without. What part of experiencing something new, snowbirding, do you like, Lori?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Table Topics Master. Well, I kind of gave a speech about snowbirding already, but I thought I might add that in our normal life of going to work and making meals, having some fun when we're in Boston, one of the things that we also do is we spend time with our family, with our kids and our grandchildren, and it's become a regular part of not really everyday life, but I would say part of our weekly life or part of our monthly life. And now that we've been away for almost 3 weeks, I'm noticing I miss those little kiddos, especially, you know, that we as grandparents, we get to just do the fun part. As soon as the kids are crying or need a diaper change, they could go back to their parents. So I'm looking forward to, I know we talked about setting up FaceTime with the kids, but we haven't really done that yet. And I really want to set aside a regular time where we have a visit, a virtual visit, so that mostly for them to connect with me, because I want them to remember us. They're young, and want them to be able to share with us what they're doing, what they're excited about, and have us share in that joy with them. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Lori. I kind of feel the same way as you. And that's the end of our table topics. I think we all touched something. Mr. Toastmaster, back to you.
Thank you, Ray. I think that was a great set of table topics, and it's nice we all had a chance to give a response. Now we move on to the evaluation portion of the meeting. And I will do the general evaluator role since we didn't manage to fill that. My fault. Now, our first evaluator is a guest to our club for today, and we do appreciate that he is visiting all the way from Singapore. So please welcome Willie Lowe to provide the evaluation for Lori's speech. Willie, you're still muted.
Thank you. General Evaluator. My speech will be, my evaluation will be in 3 parts. The first part will be on interest. The second part will be delivery. And your last part will be action for improvement. This evaluation will go out to Toastmasters, Loris. Your opening, you use a very good impacted vocal variety that could get attention to the audience. Your sense of humor reading your speech create smiley face among the Toastmasters in the meeting that attend the meeting. Let me go to your delivery. You started your speech with a statement on your speech title. You introduce the cold weather at Boston. Next, you explain the journey to Florida. Next, you introduce the cold weather at Florida and how you have swim really the cold weather, and you explain the experience of why at Florida. Okay. Area of improvement. The title of your speech can be rewritten as the winter at Boston and Florida that will create suspense to the audience. The closing of your closing can be the summary of the winter at Boston and Florida, what you like about the weather at these 2 locations. All in all, I enjoy your speech and I look forward to hear from you in your next speech. Thank you, Toastmasters General Evaluator.
Thank you, Willie, for providing the evaluation. Now, I realize we forgot to tell you how we normally work with the evaluations. At this point, we do a round robin evaluation for a few more minutes. And usually that's led by the speech evaluator, but I can take care of that just so you see how we do it. So at this point, I want to ask if there's anyone else who would like to provide some feedback on Lori's speech. I see Dawn.
I enjoyed Lori's speech, and one of the things that I highlighted and I wrote down that stood out to me as a message, maybe not as a great speech component, but it made a really good point for me, is that she left us with this idea that she hopes that we someday have, that we could experience this too and have the freedom to make these kinds of choices. And that was, it felt very powerful, just in that she's inviting us into our world, but not if it's not a choice that we want to make, but like giving us that freedom to make those kinds of choices and hope for the future. So I was feeling that was good. And I also liked learning more about what the reason behind their travals with the swimming outdoors. I don't know that I heard that before. If I did, I totally missed it. So thank you for sharing a little bit more of your life with us. Back to you, Mr. GE.
Thank you, Dawn. Is there anyone else who'd like to provide some feedback? Well, I could certainly add a little bit. I enjoyed the speech as well. I totally agree with Dawn that it was very interesting to hear about the swimming outdoors as one of the reasons for seeking to be more mobile and finding a place where you could do that more comfortably during the winter. I thought that was great. I really liked how you kind of moved through that motivation, then into getting the RV, and how you can still work remotely regardless of where you are. That was well done. There was one question that I had, and perhaps it's just my own ignorance, but I hadn't heard of the phrase tower garden before. So, I kind of highlighted that as something that, we need to watch out for, language that might not be well known. But maybe that's just me. Anyone else like to provide some feedback for Lori? Well, if you're signaling, Kelly, I can't see you. We have a yellow light by now, so I think that we'll move on then. Not seeing anyone else. Thank you once again, Willie, for the feedback on Lori's speech, and thank you, Lori. Now we move on to our second evaluator to provide feedback on Rick's speech and to also lead. Are you signaling, Kelly? Okay, I see. To also lead the round robin for Rick's speech. So please welcome Donna Sarah for the second evaluation.
Thank you, General Evaluator and Rick, for a wonderful speech and a more insight into your travels and your snowbirding. Not to be confused with snowboarding. I actually found it fascinating. I was very interested to hear how you would integrate the research into it once you realized, oh yes, this project is a research project. And I heard you wrapping those pieces in, the pieces of research that you actually did. And I know from previous speeches that Lori did that there was a lot of research that went into this. And I enjoyed how you just put those in naturally as a DTM. I just felt, and maybe you had this planned all along, but I thought that was pretty brilliant. Also, I like the fact that you had 3 snafus of your trip and how that ended up being those boosts of humor that you brought into the speech, which was the 17-inch snowfall and the dragging wire and the dog needing to go out. And I was totally envisioning, was it Family Vacation, one of those vacation movies with the humor, the funny guy, the movies escaping my mind. But I was seeing
Robin Williams.
I'm thinking Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase, yes. Chevy Chase, that's the one. And so I was just seeing, I think they did one, but as you were talking about the dog, I'm like, no, you didn't let the dog out and like leave him on the back while you're driving, because that's what they did in their movie, which I know you would never do to Mazel. So that was, but I was very engaged in your storytelling, your ability to weave in that research piece and just make it a funny part, a funny story that brought us into your world, kept us with a smile on our face, and shared a bit of what you're going through. And yeah, so I enjoyed all of it, and I enjoyed the fact that you invited us at the end to come with you, and never invite somebody who loves to travel that you know very little, because I have been known to show up on people's doorsteps. No, just joking. I would call in advance, but still, that was fun. And I appreciate that you two are having the times of your lives and that this is a good time for you. So with that, I'm going to stop my evaluation portion and invite anyone else to share their additional notes for Rick with the evaluation. Go ahead, Doug.
Sure. Rick, I enjoyed the speech. I thought it was well done. You have great energy in your voice. And I think that despite the fact that you were holding your phone, which was your microphone, up to your mouth, so you were really restricted in gestures, you still had one hand free that you really brought into the screen and were able to make gestures that were visible and effective even one-handed. So that was nicely done. I also like the fact that since you are working in the humor pathway, that you did a great job in interjecting humor throughout the speech. That was nicely done. I'll give you one challenge, and again, it's related to language. I noticed you talked about driving down the Mass Pike, particularly where we have foreign guests in the club. I think that that is a term that it would not be well known outside of the United States, or frankly, outside of an even tighter geography. But I'm assuming that meant the Massachusetts Turnpike. But I think that's something that we all want to watch out for in terms of language, making sure that we avoid jargon like that. Back to
I
you.
think it's okay for me. I'm okay with the language.
Cool.
We got worse in this part of the world.
Wonderful. And Willie, would you like to add anything else to the round robin evaluation for Rick?
I guess Richard did put out a lot of humor despite it's a huge research topic. He have used the path that he's going with a lot of humor inject. That really brought me Google screen. Apart from Rory's speech, both of them did a very good speech that really have humor in the speech. I know it's a different timing for me. It's early morning. It's supposed to be it's sleepy for me. But both their speech make me awake. I guess it will take me an hour or two to get to sleep later.
Yay, thank you. And Kelly, go ahead.
Excellent. Great speeches, Lori and Rick. So the one thing, first of all, I love the way you said I'm a really smart husband. That is always just such a good sense of humor there. And by the way, I'll just hold this to my nose at this point. For those who are managing time, we have 15 seconds. Here's the thing I'd like to hand to you. I'm going to actually intentionally go over time. Rick, you've got such a fireside, like campfire way of communicating. And it's just so story-like and so comfortable. And that is just a skill that takes decades to master. The thing I'm going to challenge you with on this is anytime it's more formal, such as this, which is just slightly more formal than the campfire that could be right next to your RV right now, easily, maybe take containers. Like some people put 3 different topics and you just know when you've gotten there too much. I'm almost going to suggest to you, have a couple of places where we can land, 2 or 3 places, so that it's not just a story that starts somewhere and goes someplace else, shooting the breeze, so to speak. Maybe make it so that we know where we are in your speeches. And again, you're like the storyteller extraordinaire in terms of like campfire, you just get sucked in. It's terrible to be a timer who now is almost at 4 minutes on the group. When I'm hearing from you, because you want to just sit and listen. Same for you, Lori. I just want to sit and listen, and I struggle, and I'm usually grasping for something and throwing it up in front of the screen. So my recommendation is just find those containers so we know where we are in your story.
Nice, thank you. And anyone else? I think we're at our time, but is that the red sweater? We have the red sweater going up now. So I'm going to hand it back to our general evaluator, Doug Thiessen. Thank you very much, Doug.
Thank you, Dawn, for the speech evaluation and leading the round robin. Now I'd like to call Kelly to give our timers report. Kelly McCormick.
Yay, thank you very much. So Lori, fantastic job at 6 minutes and 13 seconds with your speech. Rick at 6:18, wonderful job keeping it within the time. When we went to table topics, we had 5 people who kept it between 150 and 1 and 2 minutes. So Kelly, 152, Willie, 159, Doug, 154, Dawn, 151, Lori, 151. Booyah. So Evals, I think fantastic job on Willie's part. It was 147, and then group wise 242. Great job, Doug, keeping us in control. Because Dawn, you had me after getting through with that, and I blew it, but you did great. So 3 minutes on your part, and within an hour for the part that I kind of jumped in on. Back to you.
Thank you, Kelly, for the timers report and for keeping time the whole meeting. And congratulations to the club for doing so well on the 2 minutes for table topics consistently. Excellent. So this brings to the general evaluation some final comments from myself. I think that this has been a great meeting. I would definitely like to see more attendance from more guests here. If we're going to charter this club, we all have to work together to bring guests. And I do invite people, but they haven't managed to be here. But no, I think that we've had a great meeting. We had two excellent speeches on the idea of being a snowbird. It's certainly something that was quite interesting. I really appreciate the people who stepped forward and volunteered for roles at the last minute. Rick, as the table topics master, very on-topic questions that all had us all thinking, and working hard to come up with the creative responses. So nicely done. And Willie, thank you for the evaluation. That was well done as well. So I think now is the time where I will, well, I suppose as general evaluator, I can turn it back to myself as Toastmaster. And then as Toastmaster, at this point, I will turn the meeting over to our club president, Dawn, to just go over any business. So back to you, Dawn.
Thank you, Doug. What a great meeting, well ran, and everyone did a great job of filling in. I'm so happy that Rick and Lori were able to pop in here and share little sunshine with us in Florida as I'm freezing. I have my coat on because I haven't even taken my coat off yet. And you too, Kelly, you are in the South getting all warm. And I will be leaving for Puerto Rico next week. So I will be in the South as well. Well, in some warm weather. So we'll be snowbirding, not snowboarding. Thanks, Lori, for creating the new website. I think that's a big
Yes.
accomplishment, a big shift for our club. And at this point, I'm going to stop our recording, say thanks everyone for being a part of our meeting today. I'm going to stop the recording. Maybe, oh, there it is. Stop the recording. Yay.